Hey guys, I'm here with Daniel from the Footy Brains pod, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, Will. It's been a bit of a quiet week on our end, actually. We haven't really spoken too much, myself and Josh around fantasy, and we haven't even had any podcasts this week. So got
Yeah,
to do a bit of catching up on some fantasy. It's good to chat with you.
yeah, I know. I was like trying to do our buys, and I'm like, haven't even looked at it, mate. It's like, I was texting me
Yeah.
about who I have as a buy, and
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely
So how
time
do
to
you
start
think?
getting into it.
How
Yeah.
do you think we're currently sitting at it? So, I think we're speaking about that the overall score and rank is a bit broken, but that's actually 1.2k. So, yeah, how do you think we're sitting? And with zero trades remaining after using this trade, is that overall bad?
Well, yeah, you're going to be in a bit of trouble over the next month because there is still 4 game weeks to go. But I mean, as long as you've got cover for most positions, you should be okay. I know I'm looking at your team at the moment. Kaloa Matangi is going to be pretty interesting over the next couple of weeks, but outside of him, your team's looking pretty sick to be honest. Like you'd be pretty happy with most of those players going into the last couple of rounds.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think most of them trying to get a couple of underpriced players, like you see Pasecco in there, is he's underpriced from where he could be, and then Holmes and Ponga and that. But what are your thoughts on Ethan Strange? Still like a hold considering he's moved back to the centres.
Yeah, he's an interesting one because obviously playing in the halves, he gets his hands on the ball a lot more, but he has a little bit more potency when he probably plays off the shoulder of a half that can draw a defender and let him or give him some space on the outside. So I'm actually kind of interested to see how he goes at center. He's definitely going to be a hold, but one that I don't know if it'll be better for him or worse, just because he won't touch the ball as often, but he should get the ball in better space. So yeah, I mean, it'll be yeah, I mean, you're going to have to hold him, so it
Yeah,
doesn't really matter there. But we'll see how he kind of goes over the next couple of weeks anyway, for maybe next season.
yeah. And just quickly, do you reckon Joe Tapine or Cameron Murray is a buy in the middle position?
I'm definitely letting Murray. Just the price point for Cam Murray this week is just way too good. Like the fact that you're picking up a guy that was averaging, I think it was like just over 60 last year. Or sorry, the year before, he was like one of the top three best players to have in fantasy, and you're getting him at 650k this year. Like, well, right now, I think he's probably the buy of the round at the moment. Tarpany, yeah, he's a good middle forward and he's scoring quite well, but yeah, Murray is just another level when he's playing at lock for the Bunnies.
Yeah, so I think we'll be tossing it up there, but yeah, I think overall I'm in a pretty good spot. But yeah, Kalen Ponga is someone that I got as a very good buy this week. You saw he put together a I think it was a 64 against the Tigers, which is all right. But at 640k, I think he's probably the wing fullback must buy this week. Break even at 46, playing the Sharks.
Yeah, him and Turbo are two great buys this week, actually, and they're probably my two best winger fullback buys for this week. But just on Ponga for the Sharks, like if you look at his averages against the Sharks, like the last 4 games, he's got the Sharks, the Bunnies, the Titans, and the Dolphins. They're all 4 games that the Knights could win, and Ponga's averages against them are all 50 plus at the moment in the last couple of games that he's played against them. So yeah, Ponga is looking like an absolute treat to pick up, and probably not really that owned because he is just coming back from injury. So he would be a bit of a pod option as well for those in the top 1,000, top 5,000 as well, because yeah, not many people would have the trades to get him in at the moment.
38 in the top 5,000 own him.
38%. Wow,
Yeah,
actually quite highly owned. Okay. He must have been brought in. When did he come back? 2 weeks ago now?
yeah, he came back.
It
Well,
wasn't.
he came back Broncos round 20, then the buy 21. He
Okay.
came back
Yeah. So
18.
people must have.
Then Origin 19, round 20 played by 21, then 22, 23.
Yeah, so I guess he's not that good of a pod in that case. So I guess it depends where you're kind of sitting at the moment, really. If you need to climb rank, Ponga might not be one you aim for. Maybe you go for a Turbo or even a Manu instead, because he wouldn't be very highly owned now that he's only just returning. But yeah, it's one of those ones that you kind of have to consider where you're ranked and pick the player that you think will be likely to score well that most people don't have as well.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is just someone of his caliber, like down 640k.
Yep.
Like we spoke about Paseka in my team, who is underpriced. You also talk about Manu and Cam Murray. I think Pong is in the same boat as those four. Like we all know what he can do, and we all saw like what he can do in I think it was 2023 season. Like he killed it, 62.8 average. I think
Yeah.
to me, Pong is a no-brainer.
Yeah, I definitely don't have the trades to bring Ponga in, nor the space to bring him in. So I'm just going to be doom riding him basically. Looking at that 49% in the top 100. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm doom riding Ponga for the next couple of weeks.
If you have a Ryan Matterson and you don't have a Ponga and you have a middle to fill Ryan Matterson, it's only 50k up to get the Ponga, and I do very much like that. But for 60k, you're getting this guy Cameron Murray, break even of 48, 659k. We all know what he can do at lock. He's been very good there. I think he'll play about 60 minutes. And yeah, what are your thoughts? Just close to, I think you said he was your buy of the week this week.
Yeah, absolutely. He's my buy of the week. I mean, he's kind of a set and forget option most years. Like if you pick up Cameron Murray when he's playing a lock, you're pretty safe to get at least a 50, if not a 60, the way he plays there. So yeah, I don't think you need to read too much into Murray at lock. I'm pretty sure you can set and forget him this week if you have the trades.
Yeah, it doesn't worry you that last week he scored a try, missed 9 tackles, and was only able to get a 57 with that try.
Yeah, because he started in the back row. That's what I'm getting from that score. So he started in the back row, then Koloamatangi came off the field, and then he played lock for the rest of the game. So that's where that stat line comes from. When he's playing lock for 80 minutes, I mean, you look at Koloamatangi's scores. When he plays 80 minutes at lock, he's scoring 60 plus. So I don't see any reason why Murray would be any different.
Yeah, and that I think they realised that he's so important at lock. Like it's kind of like moving Isaiah Yo or Carrigan to the edge position and just chucking in Corey Jensen because why not?
Yeah, those kind of players, they're just so important to the team, and having them in the right position, yeah, it boosts your team 98% of the time. And
It's like
I mean,
I'd say
yeah,
Murray's probably the best lock in the game, and like Yo is close to him. But for Penrith, it's just his ball playing so important that if you remove him, they're a lot worse of a team. And Keon's a good lock, but I think Murray's just complete better lock than him.
yeah. I think they brought Keon into the middle because they needed a bit of physicality there, and that did stabilize their team. But when you're looking in attack and having that ball playing presence through the middle, Murray's your guy.
Yeah. So 698k, break in of 30, and a very juicy draw in the Warriors, Tigers, Dogs, and Cronulla. Turbo, do you think where would you rank him and Ponga in opposed to buys and who not to buy?
Yeah, look, they're both buys for sure. Turbo's just a little bit more, he's going to be more attacking stats heavy. Like you're going to be relying on him to get a few tries, a couple of try assists, and those kinds of stats. But the way Manly are going at the moment, they're pushing for finals, they're scoring plenty of points. I think Turbo's pretty much going to be in everything that they do. And if he's not, it's probably because he's gotten injured and he's off the field. So yeah, Turbo, the only risk to him is that injury downside, but you're looking at 4 weeks here, and if you need a guy that's going to make a difference, Turbo is going to be that guy, especially for Manly. He plays, everything is played through him for Manly, so
Yeah.
yeah, I love him as a buy.
So you think we could see 2021 Tom Trbojevic back for the last 4 weeks?
Oh mate, I wish they need to change the tackle bust stat to be 3 points instead of two, because
Yeah.
that made Turbo just be an absolute freak. I think he was averaging like 80 at some point in 2021, but yeah, he'll still be a freak. Like he still gets those stats. It's just, the scoring is a little bit different
He finished
now
the
than it was back
season.
then.
Yeah, he finished the season averaging 80.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I would lean towards Ponga just because he's got the goal kicking and he's a little bit more
Yeah,
cheap.
good
But
point.
I do think he's a good option. And a very interesting option in that is also Joseph Manu. A highest break even, but a 551k. It's an absolute snag at center. But I mean, for me, Manu's just a bit more up and down nature than
Yeah.
those other guys. And he plays in centers. So like he doesn't have as good as base and doesn't goal kick in that either. So like would you look at Manu at all? Any interest in him?
I think I'd look at Manu for the exact reasons that I've been saying before. He's that pod option. He's only been back for, well, what, he played around 22,
Yeah.
and then he had the bye last week. So he would be very low owned amongst the top teams. So he's the player that I would look to get some attacking stats that, is a bit different from your turbos and from your pongers, because he can, on his day, be an absolute freak. And when you look at the draw that they have coming up, they've got Para, who have been underwhelming and defensively quite poor when you look at Penrith last week. Titans, they're conceding a lot of points. They just conceded 40 odd to the Warriors, I think it was.
Sharks.
And then you've got the Raiders and the Bunnies, who also have their defensive struggles. So, yeah, I think Manu could be one of those guys that if you're looking for a bit of a pod play, could be, um, scoring your 50s, 60s plus. But like you said, he doesn't have the goal kicking that Ponga does. He doesn't have the same, um, I guess, presence on the field as Turbo does. Like everything doesn't always run through Manu. They've got so many other guns like Walker and Teddy. At the Roosters. So not everything's going to go through Manu, but he's another player that, scores plenty of tries and does get a lot of good stats from tackle busts and on the wing or at that centre position.
Yeah, and he is leaving, so I don't think that he'll get dropped just to like not play as many minutes because they are looking to win the finals. But it could be something. Maybe they give him less ball just to try see if the other side works a bit more. And like I think that there's a bit more of him leaving that makes him a bit more of a risk.
Yeah, he's definitely more of a risk at the moment, but I mean,
He went an
I
absolute
wouldn't ever
gamble,
write him off ever.
yeah, for a couple of weeks. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think Manu's kind of a player you proceed with caution with and kind of just hope for the best.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what can you do? I mean, I'm sitting around the 7K mark in terms of rank. I was thinking of going Manu just to have a bit of a different option, and because he's a similar price to Matto, and that's all the cash I kind of have. But yeah, he's one that I mean, you got to if you need to take a risk, he's one that you could look at.
Yeah. Isaiah Yo, 777K, breaking even 56. We all know what Yo can do, and this is kind of a lowish year for him average wise, but someone that always flies under the radar. Do you think now that Matto's down, Yo is even more of an importance, or now that Murray's back to the lock position, Murray's now at the buy over Yo?
Or I'm crazy that you said that he's got a lowish average when he's averaging 61.
I know.
That's incredible, chat. But he's Mr. Consistent, Isaiah. Yo. Like he's gonna score pretty much 50s, 60s every week for you. Like you can happily chuck the C on him, knowing that you're gonna get at least 100 every week. And I think having him and Murray in your team is kind of essential for the last month. Now just knowing that they're both going to be scoring 50s plus. If I had to choose between either one, I think I would lean Murray, just knowing that Penrith have got a top two spot pretty much set and forget as well. So they could start resting players in that final round, which means you are going to lose a mid for that last round. So Murray does have a bit of an edge there, but you've also got to look at the kind of scores that you expect from them. Yes, you're probably expecting a little bit higher from Yo, but Murray's going to give you that extra game in the last week, most likely. So,
Yeah.
yeah, just think about that as well when you're picking players now.
I think the reason I would lean towards Murray more often is two reasons. Well, this is like he probably has more of a chance to go higher. Like probably has more of a chance to get at try and get in the 80s. He might go 80 and 50. But I do think, and also think that Murray's a lot more important for his team than Yo fantasy wise. Like you see the Panthers, they got so much weapons like Cleary, Luai, Toto, Edwards, Tungo, even like Liam Martin, Fisher Harris. But if you look at that Bunny side with Latrell out, Campbell Graham out, they don't really have many guys, especially down the middle, that are just solid players. They got Cook
Yeah.
and Murray that like are kind of their backbone of the team, which is why I think for me I'd lean towards Murray over Yo this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And obviously the price point is really enticing as well. It's funny that you bring that up, the Campbell Graham, not having him as a gun. And you look at the Bunnies and you think, well, where did their season go wrong? But you look at their round one team and what they fielded to start with. Obviously, no Campbell Graham. They didn't have a really pronounced winger outside of Johnston as well. And with Latrell being injured for half of the season, it's really hurt them. So
Yeah.
yeah, they need a few more strike weapons, and getting Campbell Graham back is going to be a good step in the right direction for them next season as well.
I do think Lockie Elias and Isaiah Tass, even though they're not stars, but them going down is like
Yeah.
Elias and Tass are very good young players. And you see like Jack Whiten is a good 5'8", but I think Elias is the future. And I mean, if you tell what kind of Whiten to play the Manu roaming center role, it could have done some stuff for the other teams.
Yeah, it's hard it's been a hard season for Whiten to just jump into that squad, and then he has to basically be the focal point in attack, and it just hadn't panned out for him because they didn't really have anyone else in attack outside of Latrell on the wing, passing it to Johnston, and that
Yeah.
was their one kind of, wraparound play. That was pretty much it in attack, which was pretty predictable for most of the season. And yeah, Latrell went down. Murray also had an injury mid-season. Then you lose, yeah, you lost Ilias. Tass was gone. They also lost their other half.
Dion.
Can't remember his. Yeah, and it just completely, yeah, completely ruined him, unfortunately. But yeah, alas,
Yeah.
is what it is.
Connor Watson, 682K, 63 break even. We all know what Connor can do, being a great player, but um, again, we're ranking all these locks, and how would you rank him in comparison to Murray, Yo, and Tarpany? Personally, I have him a little bit lower, just considering he's had a little bit lower of scores and his minutes look a little bit down, and they've already locked that position in the 8 also.
Yeah, after Origin, I was dead set on getting Watson into my team, but I didn't have the cash, so I was going to wait one more week, and that was the week I think he only got like a 30 or something like that
Yeah.
at lock, and then that made me second guess picking him up, and ever since then he kind of hasn't hit those 60s, and I think he hit, yeah, I'm looking at it now, he hit a 90 back in well before Origin, where he
Around
was
9.
looking really good at lock. Like he was just racking in the stats.
Yeah.
Um, but since then he hasn't really hit those peaks. I think if you've got Watson, you're not really selling him at this point, which a lot of people in the top 5,000 do at 28% there. That is quite a lot. But if you're looking to buy, you're probably not looking at him at the moment because he's just not hitting those scores at the moment. I think he has a high break even as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think he's one that you might give, if you've got him on the radar, you might give him another week and just see how he goes. But yeah, not looking to buy him unless you see those scores improve.
Yeah. Knowing that we just said that though, he'll probably pump out of 70 and 80 now and yeah, make prove us wrong. Knowing him.
Yeah, he probably will now that we've said
Yeah.
it.
So someone that I'm leaning towards, just because I've already spoken to you, I don't like having the cash in the bank for the last week when I have 0 trades left. But I mean, I think about it, and you've kind of spoke to me into Cam Murray over Joseph Tarpany. The reason I lean towards Tarpany is I look at that score with the 46, and it came with a sin bin, and he only played the
Yep.
45 minutes. But if he didn't get that sin bin, he goes up to a 53, and he plays another 10 minutes, so he very easily could have gone to 65. At his price, we all know what Tarpany can do, and the Raiders still have a fighting chance to make the 8. And I think if they're going to make the 8, Joe Tarpany is massive for them. That's why I'm leaning towards Joe just a little bit more, and he has more of a chance of going those 90 scores just with so many tackles and his offloading game. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I actually spoke to Josh last week around Tarpany. He's been quietly just going under the radar since Origin Tarpany. Like he had a pretty average start to the year, but ever since, Origin and all the players leaving to play Origin and going into camp, he's quietly just been ticking along, getting his 50s, a 70, just little scores to improve his average. And I completely agree with you. Like it looks like his base is probably around the mid to low 50s, but on his day, if he, gets an extra couple of offloads or he has a line break or a try assist, even a try he's capable of here and there. Yeah, I really rate Tarpany.
Yeah, just something for me is when Tom Starling came back and started like playing a little bit more minutes from round 13, he's kind of scored a bit better, and you've seen like those kind of bigger scores of the 70s and the 90s and that. I don't know if
Yeah.
it really says much considering Starling is a hooker, but I just thought that was an interesting stat.
Yeah, I guess the pace out of dummy half that frees up the forwards, like the quick play the balls and Starling darting out a dummy half, drawing a couple of defenders and then playing it out the back to Tarpany gives him a bit more room and space to kind of hit a hole. So it does. I mean, everything does make a bit of make a difference when you're playing RL. So those little defensive or attacking, sorry, plays that open up your forward pack to have the most impact, yeah, pretty important. And Starling over Danny Levi, I think, was a no-brainer for Ricky. Levi's good, but Starling just has that little bit more pace around the ruck that you really want from a hooker.
Yeah. The one thing for me is with Topney, I'm so surprised how owned he is. I never thought 33% of people in the top 100 would be owning him. But yeah, he's compared to Murray, he's just a little bit more owned. So if you wanted a pod, I would go for Murray. But I think worst case scenario, there'll be about 3 points average between them in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to be quite close.
Yeah,
I don't think you can go wrong with either, to be honest. They're both going to score quite well.
flip a coin or
Yeah,
whatever you want.
exactly.
But Ryan Matterson, someone we've owned for ages and ages, just keeps screwing us over. And now for the ribs, kind of started finding form at lock. Do you think that you can hold Ryan with a good PPM recently, or is it now just a ribs? Even though he's selected to play, but I think is ruled out this week. Is he a sell?
Yeah, if he's ruled out, he's going to be a sell. Any sort of rib injury, we saw it with Brendan Smith last year and this year as well. Those niggling rib injuries, they really, really hurt you in terms of fantasy production because you're not making as many tackles, and the tackles you are making, there's a higher chance of you missing those tackles just because of the pain of the impact. So it's not going to be worth having Ryan Matterson, even if he does play with that rib injury, because his stats won't be there.
Yeah,
So I think he's most likely. I haven't heard any confirming news from that. I just saw the post from NRL Physio on it, but I could see him being a laid out and probably going to be a sell for sure if that is the case.
yeah, and even with if you had one trade in my situation, do you still sell him or do you hold Ryan Madison and just hold that trade if a big gun is out?
Oh, that's the big question, Will. That's the question everyone wants answered. I think everyone's probably hanging around with one or two trades and wondering whether they should just pull the trigger and do it. I think if it means that you're getting Murray in for 4 weeks, and you don't have another mid to replace Madison, say Matto's your last mid or your last edge, and you need to get a player in to get that same scoring potential from them, then you by all means you pull the trigger and you trade that player in. It will leave you short over the next couple of weeks, but the weeks that you have him, like the next 4 weeks that you'll have Murray, will outweigh the 1 or 2 weeks that you miss out on not having a player just in case an injury or something happens in the last couple of rounds or someone's rested in the last round. I think it's worth using that trade when you've got an injury to get the scores from them.
Yeah, I agree. So Mitch Barnett, 880K is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's killing me, this guy.
Oh, but 72 break even. Do you think that there's some argument to make him a buy this year, or sorry, not this year, but a buy this week, killing it at prop recently, or is it just one you kind of let go through to the keeper and just say we missed the boat on there?
Yeah, I mean, can anyone afford him at this point? Like, there's no Haas you can sell to get him. The only player you can sell to get him in, like for like, is Nathan Cleary at the moment, which no one's going to do. But I think if you don't have Barnett, you've just got to, you're praying that he has a down week every week from this point onwards. But it just hasn't happened yet. He just keeps providing week in, week out, which is, it's actually incredible, his stats looking at him. Like, it's not like he gets a ton of tackles, but the meters he gets and the offloads he gets, it's just, yeah, it's incredible each week.
Yeah, I
Just pulls it
personally
off.
can't believe it, and
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to talk about it though.
Oh, it's the same feeling I have about you and Aitken not getting him earlier in the year. Barnett's just
Oh,
skyrocketing and I've missed the boat. It's
yeah.
frustrating. It's very frustrating.
So probably our last mid option to look at for Ryan Madison replacement is 741K Adam for Noah Blake. The only reason I'm not leaning towards Adam is just the round 27 buy. Do you think that's the fact in Adam?
Yeah, and I think like we've talked about already, Murray plays all games and he's a lot safer of a scorer. For Blake, yeah, he can go big. Like he can get your 70s and your 60s most weeks, but that comes off the back of tries or tackle busts or tons of meters. Like there are some weeks that he has down weeks. Like I think a couple of weeks ago, he only got like a 30 or a 40 odd.
Yeah,
But he gets those, every 2 to 3 weeks. So I think the safer option is just to get your consistency in Murray, your consistency in those kinds of players that'll get you 50 or 60 every week. And then every now and then they'll go big compared to AFB, who goes big not most weeks, but pretty regularly. But then he also has some big down weeks.
yeah, I think that's fair and just the round 27 buy and
Yeah,
him leaving the
exactly.
club too. So maybe a little bit less minutes with him coming out of like with them coming out of favor of the eight.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty unfortunate for the Warriors. I was riding them home, to just sneak into the eight late in the year, and they lost like 2 or 3 on the trot, and then you're like, oh well,
Yeah, I
what can you
know.
do? Yeah.
Don't read Marnie, 619K, 72 break even. He is listed to play this week, but Do you think Reed is a sell now?
Oh, this is the probably most asked question I've got this week in the DMs. It's a hard one because you really don't want to waste a trade on a guy like Reed because he can produce some good scores and he's not worth that much money anymore. Like he's down to, I think, the low 600Ks at the moment. So it's kind of a hard one. If you have the trades, I would consider selling him. Say you have 4 or 5 trades, yeah, I would look to trade. But if you're only left with one or two, I think you just ride out Reed Marnie and you keep him in your team. The only exception to that is if you're in like the top 100, top 200, and you're really pushing to get like a top 10 finish, then I would use a trade to get rid of Marnie.
Yeah, I think he'll be pretty close to top five hookers, and he has been the whole year. The only thing really is the just missed tackle numbers for me, while what makes Reed a bit less interesting. And
Yeah, it's creeping back into his game again. That was the reason no one picked him up last year, and it's coming back.
but we got him as a hold definitely this week. Just not many
Yeah, I
hookers
think that's fair.
gone around at that price that you're really looking at either.
Yeah, I think it's Harry Grant and Damien Cook. They're probably the top two, and most people have them already.
So Scott Sorensen injured again, 522K. I think he's just a sell now.
Yeah, hammy injury.
Yeah.
Even if he is back next week, he'll get less minutes or he'll get, managed just for the finals. And yeah, he's a sell.
Yeah. Same with Walsh out for the season, I think, 693K.
What? He's meant to be back for finals if the
Yeah, but
Broncos
like
actually made him.
out for the fantasy season.
Yeah, he's broken hand, he's gone.
Yeah. Guys, just there. So the big topic, Keon Kalonga-Matangi, 79 break even. And moving back to second row, do you think he's a hold? Like, I mean, I think I'm only holding him just because I don't have the trades, but I'm also holding him because we know what he can do in the second row. Like, I think his floor is a 40, and I mean, he's going to lose money, but at this style of like time of season, you're not really looking to lose like someone losing money. And we all know that he can go for those big 80 scores if he gets a try, and he's playing the West Tigers too. As much as I love him,
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's a hold, but in the circumstance where you're in a head-to-head semi-final this week, which a lot of people are, or you're in like, the top 1,000 and you need to keep climbing in rank, they're the only situations that I would sell Kaloa Matangi just because he's worth so much money at the moment. Like he's 768K. You could be doing so much more with that cash than the scores he's going to put out. So obviously there's a few situations that need to go your way. You've got to have the trades. You've got to be sitting at a decent rank, and you've got to have faith in the rest of your squad that they can pick up the scores if you are holding him. So there's a few variables there to consider. But I think if everything goes right, you ideally want to sell Kalomatangi. It's just that, like you said, no one's really in the position at this point to sell him because we don't have the trades. But I agree, his floor is probably a 40. He should be playing 80 on an edge. And against the Tigers, yeah, there's every chance that he comes out and still scores a 60 or 70 this week with some attacking stats, a try, some line breaks. But will we see that over the rest of the season? Probably not.
yeah. And I do also think that there could be a chance that Keon throughout the game moves to the lock for the 20 minutes or prop for 20 minutes. Jacob Host is carried on the bench, is he? Or Tallis Duncan? One of them can play edge for 10 and then he can stint Murray at lock for 20 if he does go off. And
yeah, I think Duncan's starting and they've got Host on the bench. Yeah, you're right.
But I also don't think it's not worth wasting your last trade on Keon.
Yeah, I agree completely.
So Ethan Strange, he's had a very good season, and you filter it by the one game at centre. Was against Melbourne Storm when they got absolutely destroyed, but
yep.
With him at centre, he's definitely a hold. Do you think it's just simple as that? Like you don't have enough trades to trade him out, and that
yeah, he's not worth the trade. You may as well hold him. I'd ideally use him as the looping option most weeks because he does have those games where he goes big. So ideally you loop him and hopefully get a good score out of him. Otherwise you put someone else on your bench in most people carrying a Fainu or a Tungle or someone like that.
Just one quick question. With Penrith versus and Sydney in the next 2 of the next 3 weeks, do you think that makes Joe Tarpany more of a buy or less of a buy, considering that like the games will be played for the middle but they won't be very tight?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I think his averages against Penrith are pretty poor, which it is for a lot of middles. I'd have to check his average against the Roosters, but I think they're two teams that middles really do struggle to score against those teams, and you can chuck Storm in there as well. Um, I think that probably makes him less of a buy
Yeah.
because of the scores against those two teams. Like Penrith, they're just notoriously a difficult team to get fantasy points against, unless you're scoring tries. So yeah, that does kind of hinder me a little bit on Tarpany now that you mentioned. I didn't even think about the matchups.
Yeah, I just saw him against Strange and I was like, oh, that's interesting for Tarpany.
Yeah, his average against Penrith is 37, so it is
Yeah.
quite low. Um, yeah, I'd be a bit worried about that. But I mean, given his current average and how he's been going, I still would expect him to, maybe get at least a mid 40 that game, just given his form and especially his form over the last couple of years. But I wouldn't be holding out for, a 70 that week.
Yeah. So you got Jaden Campbell, 687K, wing fullback half with 70 break even. Killed it at the start of 5/8, but kind of fallen back to grace with tackle bust a bit down, not kicking as many goals, and he loves the missed tackle in there. Do you think that you can't sell him as he's a wing fullback keeper, but do you think, yeah, he's definitely a hold?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They didn't score a single point, the Titans, last week against the Warriors, and he still managed a 39. So I wouldn't be worried about Jaden Campbell at all. He's a hold, and I think if you don't have him, you could still consider buying him, but it's not as tempting anymore as it was, a month ago.
Yeah, and I think that like he's showing good signs last couple of weeks with his missed tackles down. Like if you get those games with 7 missed tackles, he is going ballistic.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty crazy that he still had seven. He had 7 missed tackles, and he still scored, a 60 and an 80 those
yeah,
weeks as well.
I know.
Yeah, but he's a gun.
Yeah. So Val Holmes, someone sitting in our team. We are the 1.56% of teams that own him. But with him getting signed by the Dragons and good for him, buy next week. Do you think that he's just not a buy because of that buy and like very up and down culture for Valentine Holmes recently?
Yeah, it's unfortunate for him. I think he'll have an okay game this week against the Raiders, but then he has the bye, and then he's playing two of the toughest teams defensively, the Storm and the Bulldogs, for the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it doesn't look good for him over the next run of fixtures. So Holmes, I wouldn't be looking to buy, but if you've got him, you can't sell him now anyway. So yeah, that's all you can do really, is hold on and hope if you've got him.
Very good boot on Holmes, but I don't think they really bother them against the last two teams.
Yep.
We're running out of time, so let's quick fire the last three. Got a minute and 40 left. Tedesco, 84 break even. Do you think that he's someone you're interested in buying if you don't really own him at 776K? It's just too expensive now with a very easy run home too.
Yeah, too expensive. I think I would target Manu instead over Teddy, who can kind of feed off his attacking stats normally. But yeah, Teddy's a bit too far gone at this point. Prefer
Yeah,
going a Ponga or a Turbo.
yeah, definitely. And yeah, look at a Cam Murray if you didn't need that wing fullback.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, our pod of the week, Zach Lomax, 646K, centre wing fullback dual, 49 break even. We all know what Zach has been able to do in the wing fullback this year. Reason we got him as the pod of the week again, a good draw and good run home for the what's the face for the Dragons. Any interest in him at all with that dual position?
Yeah, I actually really like Lomax as a bit of a pod buy. So yeah, I'd be keen to get him in, especially given they play the Titans next week and they also have the Eels in round 26. Yeah, good pod.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, your pod of the week, Brian Toto, 709K, 54. Speak us through your reasoning on Brian.
Yeah, pretty much similar to Lomax. Great fixtures, and yeah, he's a gun playing off the shoulder of Cleary. So get him in.
Yeah, 21 tackle bust. Ridiculous.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, but yeah, thanks for coming on and yeah, we'll see you in the next one, guys.